And we're live. Welcome to Trish TV. And it's a great day to have an interview with Mindy Barker of Mindy Barker Associates. And Mindy is a pretty impressive lady. She has got, she's an author of a book on how to pitch to win. And her company is about helping, well, they're CFOs. She is about helping people who want to take their business to a higher level. Not only that, she is an award-winning Woman Business Owner of the Year. Welcome, Mindy. Yay!
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Now tell me about this award.
Yes, I received it today at lunchtime, which was pretty exciting. And here in Jacksonville, Florida, the Jacksonville Chamber of Commerce has a Women Connecting Women event each year. And they have different categories that you could, that they honor people in. And I won Women Business Owner of the Year, which was pretty exciting. And you win based on your success, not only your success in business, but your commitment to the community and the volunteer work that you do and the mentoring and that sort of thing. So I was really proud that all of that work was recognized as well as my success in business.
Oh, wow. That's just so exciting. So how long have you been in business, Mindy?
About 8 years. I've been doing this consulting, this financial strategy consulting for all sizes of businesses. And I really do truly love it because I love learning about different types of businesses and using my highly analytical brain to help people translate the financial numbers into their strategy and helping them pitch to investors and even make better decisions in their business day to day, because the information that investors need in order for you to secure investment is exactly what you should be looking at day to day to make management decisions yourself.
I'm so glad to hear you say that. And the reason I wanted Mindy on the program is we have that in common, that even though I talk about resilience, that includes resilience finance. And for those of you who know my story of having not done enough due diligence, that I was working for a fella who turned out to be a crook. And had I known the things that Mindy knows, then I would not, and the things I know now, of course, about due diligence. And so there's two sides of it. There's what you need to know if you want to invest in something.
Right.
But if you are someone, and what we're going to emphasize today is if you're the person who wants to gain investment money, you need to know what you're doing and you have to be able to back it up. And that's what we're going to cover today. So, Mindy, let's talk about the 3 mistakes entrepreneurs often make that put off capital investment and what to do about it.
Okay.
So that first one was to do with strategy, wasn't it? Tell me about that.
Yeah. So if you don't have a strategy to pitch to investors, pitching and trying to get money for your investment into your company can be a full-time job, and you already have a full-time job. You probably already have a full-time plus job. So if you don't strategize and you don't put together a proper database of investors that are applicable to your industry or the size of investment that you're interested in, or the stage your company is in, you can just run around like a chicken with your head cut off, talking to different people and preparing different types of information. You need to control that. A lot of people don't really understand that. They get so excited that somebody is paying attention to them or speaking to them that they do wind up running around with like a chicken with their head cut off and not being efficient and using strategy to secure that investment.
So that strategy, that's something that you can help people with, because it's a hard thing to do on your own, because sometimes you can't quite see. It's hard to be objective yourself. You can't quite see the flaws in it. So it is helpful to talk to someone like yourself.
Right.
And if you can't get in touch with or if you're not at the level where you need to do that one-on-one deep talk, because your target market is often companies of already got $1 million turnover, don't you?
Yeah.
that they're going to go bigger. But that doesn't exclude everybody else. And you have a book out.
Yes, I have a book.
You have a book. I want to show. So for people who might want to find out more about it first, you have got, let me screen share. And there we are. And I'll just get rid of that banner. So Pitching to Win, Strategies for Success. And tell us a little bit about this book, Mindy.
So this book talks about the strategies that you need to consider to go and pitch to investors. And I even start out with talking about, are you an investable company? Because a lot of companies think they need to raise money in order to sustain themselves. And they're really a lifestyle business, and they're not an appropriate investment for an investment firm. Investment firms typically want to invest money, and then when they sell the company in 3 to 5 years, they want that money to turn into 5 to 10 times the multiple in which they invested in the first place. So they're not really interested in providing you $1 million to pay yourself $250,000 for the next 4 years. They're actually want to invest that $1 million to turn it into 5 to 10 million in the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, now that leads me to, and we'll circle back around a couple of these things, but I want to get to some salient points they're just so vital, where they're looking to invest in someone, and as you've said, sometimes, they're not going to give you $1 million so you can pay yourself. I love that. I caught what you said. They're not going to give you $1 million so you can pay yourself $250,000 a year for 4 years.
Right.
That's not what it's for.
Right.
And so that's where you were. Yeah, I'd love to hear more about when you say, "Oh, I need the money for."
Right. And you back up your numbers. I can't tell you the number of pitches I have sat through where the people say, we just need to raise $1 million. We need to raise $5 million to grow our business. And then their lips are together. They're not saying we need $5 million to use $1 million for marketing and $2 million for additional staff, or we need to spend $1 million on systems or manufacturing. All of those things are valid things to spend money on to build a business in order to increase the value of it. But just to say, I need $5 million to grow my business, and not really articulating how are you going to use that, and have the financial projections that show that money is going to come in and it actually is going to generate additional revenue, bring in customers, and build the enterprise value of the business is critical. Is absolutely critical when you're having this conversation with the investors. And it's also critical for you, even if you're going to spend your own money, if you're going to take money out of your investment or your retirement account and you're going to put it in your business, you really need to make sure that you know that there's going to be a return on investment, because just because you're investing your family's money, you still have a fiduciary responsibility to your family.
Right. And enthusiasm is not a strategy.
No, it's not. A lot of people.
I just know. If you build it, they may not come.
Right. That's right. That's not the best strategy, because I do see that a lot of people think that their idea or their company is like a lot of us think of our firstborn child. Of course, our firstborn child is perfect. They're never going to do anything wrong. And they're the most beautiful baby in the world. And we don't like to hear a lot of, well, maybe they're not the most perfect child in the world, right? And so a lot of people have that feeling. They're not willing to listen. They're not willing to take advice. That actually is going to show whenever you get ready to pitch to investors. And that is not a good sign to show. You need to show that you're willing to consider alternatives, that you're willing to work with someone who's been there, done that, built a business in the past. And a lot of times investors will actually ask you a question to see if it makes you mad, to see how well you'll work with them. They're testing.
Okay, let's just pause there. I hadn't thought of that.
They will.
So they're testing you, because there have been opportunities. There was one earlier this year that I really wanted to go with, and the fellow that I talked to was so dominating, and I could barely get a word in. And I gave him 2 chances, had 2 conversations, and I just ended up saying, look, it's not for me. Look, I think our communication styles are not going to work together. There's no way I could work. I could invest with someone who wouldn't listen, wouldn't be told.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You definitely, they don't want you to run off with their money and do whatever you want. They want you to work with them, use their expertise, use their network. And here's the other thing: you need to do due diligence on that investment firm or that investment person
Sure do.
to make sure it's a good fit for you. Because if you get involved, let's say with an investor that their fund is getting ready to end and they need to exit investments in the next 2 to 3 years, and that's not going to be long enough for you to actually build your business and get your value, then that's not a good fit. And one of the things I always tell CEOs and founders and C-suite executives, find some C-suite people that have worked with the investors before and try to find somebody who actually has exited an investment with that investment firm, because going through the exit process is very difficult, because everyone wants to make a lot of money and everyone wants to get through the due diligence process. And that is, I guess that's when people really show their true colors, if you will. So it's good to get some insight as to how they went through that process before.
That's so true. And as you and I were talking in preparation for this interview, you know, there was, we both realized that there are 3 areas that need to be investigated. There's the other person, and there's the actual deal, and there's yourself. You've got to know your triggers, your hot buttons, the things that whether you're the investor because you want it to work, and whether you're the person who's looking for the investment because you're like you said about the firstborn child, you're so in love with it, you can't possibly imagine anything going wrong. But it's on both sides of the fence, isn't it? Although at the level that you're talking about, they generally have processes in place where they take the emotion out of it. But for people who are looking to invest $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 in their son-in-law's fish and chip shop, you know, you really need to know what it is about you that and one of the rules of investing on a personal level that I often quote is there's only 2 rules to investing: that never invest more than you can afford to lose.
Right.
And number 2 is see rule number 1.
Right.
You know, so, and that's why someone with your expertise is so helpful, because you will be the one who will go through and you're on their side. You want to help them to pitch, but you'll be saying, hey, this is going to be a stumbling block. This needs to be fixed. And that's what's so important about getting that third party objectivity. So, you know, it's so essential.
It is absolutely essential to make sure that you're aligned with and everyone is on the same page in terms of strategy.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's just so good. Now, I want to go back to, let's have a look. Oh, okay. Now we're looking at, now within the performing due diligence on potential investors, so within this, let's talk about ethics. Let's go there.
Okay.
My husband has a phrase, thou shalt not, 11th commandment, thou shalt not kid thyself. You know?
Right.
So there's the kidding of yourself, but there's also one of the characteristics that that I'm very passionate about is integrity. Everyone assumes they have integrity.
Right.
Until it's tested, until there's temptation, and until there is so much pressure that you cannot see another way out.
Right. That's true.
Yeah. Talk to me about what's going on in people's heads that might take them off track. When you're working with people and you're saying to them, this is not right, and they don't like the sound of that. Tell me about the different ways they respond, because I imagine some of them would pull back and go somewhere else, or some of them would tell me about that mental struggle, because I think this is going to help people.
Yeah, I think it is difficult. That's a very difficult conversation that I've had with people. And I've actually even told people that didn't want to hear it that they really needed to go see a bankruptcy attorney. And
wow.
it's not fun. And the one thing that does seem to happen with a lot of fast-paced growth companies that are making really bad decisions is I will say, you really need to slow down. You really need to address this. You really need to, and then they'll start pointing fingers, usually is what I'll find. Well, that's the CFOs, that's the CIOs, that's the CEOs' responsibility. That's not my responsibility. I'm doing what I should do. I do hear that a lot.
Hang on, let me pause there. I want people listening to think about what you just said, because it doesn't just happen in finance, it happens in all parts of life.
Right.
When you find the flaw and they don't like it, so often it'll be, that's the CEO's responsibility, that's this person's fault, that's this, that's that. Right. But I still need the money because it'll still work, right?
Exactly. And they think that we just need a little bit more time. We'll figure it out. So I need to, my computer has messed up and I need to go grab a cord real quick. I'm going to run and do that real quick. Okay.
Okay, that's great. And that's fine. So here's the thing with look, I went to prison. I lost 8 months of my life, and my family lost me for 8 months because I didn't know that my boss was stealing investors' money. That's not why I went. He was stealing investors' money, and it was my job to manage the investors, not knowing what he'd done. He was telling me it was about the market, and market's doing this, market's doing that. And for 3 months, I had people at me, "Where's our money? Where's our money?" And it eroded my resilience, and I couldn't take it anymore. And I ended up getting them paid in a way that was not compliant with the Corporations Act. That's why this is really, really important, because you can get yourself in a lot of hot water not listening to what you don't want to hear. Now, this might be a good time to mention our sponsors, who are a company called Read It For Me. That's the affiliate link that I have that's for sponsorship. But now Read It For Me, and I'll put it in the text. Read It For Me is a company that summarizes books to all these books. Sometimes I wish I had a USB port in my ear so I could stick a cord in and download what's in the books. Well, this company summarizes business books to 12 minutes, and you can listen to it on audio, or it may even be they will even do video. So that's a really good thing. And in the text, I'll put a link to that. Now, speaking of good books, we have got Mindy back, and here she is.
Yep.
And here we are. So that was a good little commercial break in between.
Right.
So, good.
Well, good.
And we're going great for time. Let's see what else. We were talking about ethics. What else have we got here? Due diligence, and try to speak to the management team. Talk to me about where you've got try to speak to the management team of a potential investor and get their perspective. Talk to me about that. That kind of due diligence is interesting as well.
Right. So that a team that has literally gone through an investment and built a company with the investor that you are talking to, they have gone through good times and bad times with them. And an investment is a little bit, an investment relationship is a little bit like a marriage. There's going to be good times. There is no company out there, even Amazon.com, all the companies that have grown and been tremendously successful in so many ways, they have had good times and bad times. They have had times where the company is not knowing if they even are going to make it through the next 6 months. That's really hard on a management team. It's really hard on a management team and their investors. And if everyone's not in the boat rowing together and being honest and truthful with each other, it can turn into a negative situation.
It sure can. So it can often be the case where the on either side, they actually don't want the other person talking to the staff. And should that be considered a red flag?
Yes, definitely. Definitely. I've been in a couple of consulting situations where I've been the interim CFO or the fractional CFO, and I'll be told, well, you don't really need to talk to that person, like a person processing payroll or someone doing something that's financially related. You don't really need to talk to that person. And that's a red flag that I need to be packing my bags and getting out.
Wow. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Right. Okay. So that's a red flag on the part of the investor. Then I imagine the red flags on the part of the person pitching is that you want to make sure that whoever you're pitching to actually does have the money. How do you establish, I mean, they're not going to show you their bank account, but how do you know they're not stringing you along and just maybe going to try and steal your IP?
Yeah, that's a difficult process to manage. And a lot of times companies that have really strong IP that are in the startup mode, they'll stay in what they call stealth mode. And they'll work on building a minimum valuable product. MVP is the term in investment world. That means that they're like, if they're building an app, they're going to build an app and they'll have it on all platforms and they'll have the minimum functionality in the product.
So what's it called? Minimal value.
Viable product, viable product is MVP.
Okay, I'm just going to pop that up. Minimal viable product, MVP. So remember that phrase. That's an important one. So just explain it again.
So like if somebody's building something like technology or something like that, an app or even like a piece of machinery that's going to work, right. A lot of times people, when they start doing that, they're like, well, I need $10 million in order to make this work. And I'll say, do you have a minimal viable product or an MVP? And they say, no, I can't build just part of it. I've got to build the whole thing. And I was like, well, let me explain something to you. Nobody's going to give you that amount of money because you have a design on a piece of paper. Most of the time, they're just not going to do that. You need to figure out how to carve out a piece of this to build an MVP, a minimal viable product, in order
a model to show that it works without doing the whole thing. So you're giving them some substance, to give yourself some credibility. I like that. And then you would obviously make sure you protect your own intellectual property around that product.
Right.
So that, and that's where, once again, people talk to someone like yourself.
Right. Yeah. And it really, it helps to talk through what that might be, because there may be some features, benefits and features that you think are absolutely critical. But then whenever you start talking to investors, they don't really care about that. Like if you're building an app, you've got to have it on the Android and the Apple platform, and have it live with the MVP before investors are really going to take you seriously, for example.
Yep. That makes a lot of sense. Wow. Now, in your book, you talk about, first of all, I'm going to screen share again. Let me just hide that. I'm going to screen share again because I want to show people your website where they can go to get more information. And this is mindybarkerassociates.com. And that's where I'll just, that's scrolling. Good. So this is where they can go to find it. We engineer financial strategies. That's awesome. And of course, you have your book again, which is, there's a banner there, but I'm going to show the picture of the book, so mindybarkerassociates.com. So you can, let me just put that across as a, let's see. There we go. People can take their time to watch that and still see the book. Now, where can people? Two things I want to do. One is I want to quickly show people your 7 strategies without going through all of them, but they can get this book on Amazon.
Yes, Amazon.com, and it's in paperback, the Kindle version, and I actually read it for the Audible version as well.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Do you know, I often will get a book, and I will, you know how Amazon offers you the audio with it for a few extra dollars? I have started doing that because then I can switch between my Kindle and my phone while I'm walking, so I can listen at the same time. And then if it's a hard book that I really want to concentrate on, listening and reading at the same time is actually you actually take in a bit more. So well done you on that, and you read it yourself.
I did read it myself. It
fabulous. It's so much nicer to hear it from the actual author. Fantastic. It's so good. So good. Now, the other thing I wanted to show, I think it's the next. Hang on. Now we go back. That's you. Look how beautiful you are. I have got, hang on, I'll move that down. I have got a slide up of your 7. All right, I'm just going to bring it straight up here. Oh, there we. Oh, it was there. It was here. It was a tab. I was thinking it was a picture, but it came up as a tab. So, in what we've talked about the essence of it. But you have a broader detail that you go into that people can find in the book, but also that you would do with them yourself. So, do you want to just quickly run through these?
Yes. So an execution roadmap is just basically what you've already accomplished and what you plan to accomplish, and basically what you're going to use their money for. And again, you need this to make sure that you're running your business properly day to day. And infrastructure is all the systems and process that you need to run a business anyway. And you need to know how much cash you're going to burn through. And, we already talked about the database of investors, and you need to have, it's very difficult to do a 1-page executive summary on almost any company, but you really need that, like, to bring it down to concise. And then you need 2 pitch decks, one to email that has a lot of detail, that not a tremendous amount of detail, but can stand alone and tell the story. And then the pitch deck that you use to present is really more like a TV show, so that they're paying attention to you and they're not trying to read little bitty font on a screen.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I just love that. I'm just going to fill this. Whoops, wrong one. This is what I wanted to do. Fill the screen with that. That's just fabulous. I love that. Okay, so my goodness, you've given us so much information, Mindy. I'm just going to stop sharing there. So much information, but you've given us due diligence on ourselves as if we want to pitch to someone, and also for the people who, it's good to know what people who want to invest are looking for, so they can get that marriage up. And for people who would like to get the book, they can get it on Amazon.com. And for people who would like to work with you personally, they can go to your website, Mindy Barker Associates.com, and get in touch with you that way, and find out more about having a discussion with you about helping them to get that investment to take it to that next level. Well done. Thank you so much, Mindy, for your wonderful, wonderful sharing. And this has been Trish TV on resilient finance. And as you know, I'm a speaker and author on resilience, courage, and leadership. And I would encourage you to get in touch with Mindy Barker for speaking opportunities and to deal with your businesses, and get in touch with me on resilience, courage, and leadership speaking, or even the ministry side of things, because I do both. All right then. So Mindy, my goodness. And once again, a mention of our sponsors. Read it for me, and their details will be in the text that I add to the video. So Mindy, wonderful chatting with you, and I'm just thrilled with what you've been able to share with us. So thank you so much for what you've contributed.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed it.
Bye, everybody.